Oh my goodness, can it be? I think it has been a minute since I have been on YouTube, but I have been talking to some of my students over in the Watercolor for Beginners course, and apparently you guys are struggling with your brushes. And so I thought I would jump here on YouTube because this is a great video for YouTube, and we could talk a little bit about how to use different brushes to make these flowers. And oh yeah, that's right. I didn't even do like a Christmas haul. Well, I just got to show you this. So for Christmas, this was one of the gifts that I got, and it is the Sennelier pastel set in the wood box set. I am so excited to try this out. I actually haven't tried it yet, but I wanted to show it to you guys because I think it is so pretty and I love it. So thank you so much for this amazing Christmas gift. I just cannot wait to play with these. I also have the sets of oil pastels too, and I have them all set up in a special place so that I can add this to my nice little art studio here. So this is going to be really exciting. In any case, let's talk flowers, and let's talk quickly about how to use different brushes depending on what you have. So basically in the course, there was a sample that looks similar to this, and I was making the brush strokes and showing you how to do the flowers. And what was coming back from a couple of questions was that you were struggling probably because of your brush. So the brush that I was using in the course, believe it or not, is this one. And you can see once it gets wet, it gets significantly more pointy. This is the Escoda Versatile size 10. So it looks big, but honestly, it's the best brush to use for so many things. And it's my #1 favorite brush. So I will link this up in the description box below. It's also on my materials list over at jacquelinejax.com. So for everybody who is taking the course, also below the course, I just got red watercolor all over me, who are taking my course, I now have underneath the video where you were asking, I linked up a link for where you can find this brush because I believe it is not sold on Amazon. So that's probably why you're having a little struggle finding it. And rightly so, because if you notice, compared to like a standard round, it's a lot longer, right? A lot longer it is. And that's probably why I love it so much, because it's so unique. I also have it in the size 4. And this is, again, it's an Escoda Versatile. It is a round brush, but it's really, it's just a very long style round brush, and I love them. It's very similar, like if you were using a striper, but the thing is that the stripers don't usually have these big wide bellies on them. They're thinner, so that's why the stripers don't work, and why you should really get this. I love this one. So I have a 4 and a 10, and I use them for freaking everything. I really do. Now in comparison, probably most of you have you know, maybe something like this. This is a size 8 Tintorito brush. It's a standard, kind of like a quill or a round. I love this brush, actually. I can do anything with this one too. And then here's another one. This is the Escoda Ultimo. So as you can tell, it's a round, but it's also a very long brush, size 4. So I kind of brought these out, but I also wanted to do some with a quill and then a standard, maybe like this is a little Nova synthetic. It's Da Vinci size 6, so maybe in your kits or something, maybe you guys are trying to do them with this, so I thought I would bring that out. You can see how different. It looks similar, but it's really not. And then I have a little size 6 round, which is just another little standard. This is by Tintorito again. I love this brand from Italy. I also brought one of these silver dagger brushes. This is a 1/2 inch dagger, just in case that's what you have, and a snap shader because, you know, why not? I'm going to show you how to use them. So let's wet some of our watercolors here. These are some open stock ones from Roman Schmal. And you know how much I love Roman Schmal for beginners because I'm a big Schminke fan. You know that. I love my Schminke watercolors. But when it comes to affordability, not everybody can get their hands on Schminke. So if you can get your hands on Roman Schmal, or you can use my affiliate link to order them, these are really affordable and they pack a lot of power. You know, they have a lot going on. They come in full pans. They don't come in tubes, but everybody who's gotten these sets has loved it. So these are open stock. The very first set that I know you guys, if you watch this channel, have seen, this is the woodbuck set I got for my birthday last year, and this was my first experience with Roman Schmal. I got it from Jackson's. You can please use my affiliate link if you want to give back to the channel, but in any case, I love this set. It has everything that you really need, and it comes in this great wood Roman Schmal box. They're made in Poland. So just beautiful paints. So I got so addicted to these paints, I started buying all the open stocks as they had more sales because they have amazing prices at Jackson's. Really cool. All right, so let's get started here. I'm going to make a little room. Let's put my watercolor up here. Got some brushes. I pulled these out too. These were the travel brushes by Escoda, but I think I have myself covered here. Yeah, I do. We don't really need more brushes. I think I kind of like have such a variety out for you guys that we can really just play with those. And by the way, if you guys are interested in taking my watercolor classes, I recommend you start with the first one, which is the watercolor journaling for beginners. That is where this class is. It kind of gets you started and teaches you so many fun tricks. It's very relaxing, and I've had so many amazing reviews for that watercolor class. I've had people tell me that they just look forward to it because all the videos are so different, and I do upload more videos. So it's an all-inclusive class. It's really inexpensive, and you just get everything all in one class, right? So everything you need to know to get started, you know, and stuff that you probably haven't known before. Like maybe you're going to learn something here today that you didn't know. Okay, so when we talk about watercolor flowers, I think the best way to start is just with your brush, because that is what you guys seem to be struggling with. So let's wet our brush. I'm going to start with this, which is my favorite, and let's just get a really brilliant color here. So we're going to get the Quin Red PV19 and I'm going to mix it up a little bit so that we get it in a nice consistency on our brush. I always like to do that because this is how you load your brush. If you just come right in here and go to the paint or the paper, you risk carrying things that haven't blended, you know, and so you might have strikes or uneven color. So I just kind of mix it up a little bit, maybe add in a little color, but start with the brush and just lay your brush down like this, tip first. So tip first and then the belly, and see what you get. Okay, so this is what we got by doing that. And I'm going to do it again. Okay, now I got a thinner strike, so maybe I'll just add to it. And then so that I don't have all the same color, I'm going to dab on the sponge. I'm just going to dab this out a little bit, add a little water. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of roll the belly down again. So this is me figuring out what my brush is going to do. And if I add a little more water to it and I calm down here, maybe I'll just kind of add some stuff. There's my dog. Of course, she wasn't making any sounds until just now. Oh, thanks for scaring everybody, guys. Yes, I have 2 of them and they are husky, so I apologize for that nonsense. Yeah, so they get so playful and then all of a sudden they start making noise when I least want them to. So now here's what we have. We have this nice kind of like, you know, start of a flower just by laying the brush down, and then I'm going to kind of establish a little bit of a center. And you can even come here and use the tip and just kind of like give yourself a little bit of crazy shading. Just like this, and just kind of play, you know. Sometimes just less is more, but I feel like showing you this maybe will kind of inspire you to just kind of play with your brush and not struggle with your brush. So it's really not about getting the exact shape that I have. It's more about using your brush to get what you can. So here's the same brush again, right? So now let's just add a little different color to it, so that it's going to get some cherry. So let's take the same brush and let's see what else it can do. So what happens if I roll this brush just like that? Look at that. I just roll the brush. Okay, that's interesting. So now I've gotten this really, really unique petal shape, right? Okay, so maybe I'm going to go down here and I'm going to roll the brush again. And see how I'm just kind of like turning it, getting a little paint on the brush. Now I'm looking for maybe like a center. I think this might be a good center. So I'm going to roll it off the page, and then I'm going to come and do it on this side. Now I just made a really beautiful flower. You see that? And I can actually like shade some here if I want to, and get like just a little more dramatic if I want to. I can leave it like it, you know, like it was. I can add a center to it. I mean, there's just so much, right, you can do once you have those shapes. And we just experimented with the shape. So now we're going to take our brush again and add a little color. And we're going to see what happens when I do like these little, like, you see this? Wait, let me see. These little shapes. I'm just going to kind of just do wispy flicks. I'm holding the brush at the end and I'm just kind of like flicking it and just looking for inspiration, basically. Just what am I going to see? That's cute, actually. I like that. So now we're going to put it like a little base. And hello, look at that. We've made a really cool little like flower. Look at that. How easy is that? So I use the tip. So you can see that like there are literally so many shapes. If I want to do like a thin flower shape, which is very similar to the one that I think you guys were struggling with your brush, then if I want to just do kind of like multiple flower shapes, I can do that just by hitting it really quickly. And I like to hold my brushes at the very end sometimes, because I feel like it gives me a much looser style and I'm not as scared, you know what I mean, trying to be perfect. And I feel like things that are imperfect are such nice things to do in watercolor. I just don't really love the look of that, you know, perfection. If you want perfection, you can get a pencil and draw perfection. All right, so that's that brush. So obviously, if we went ahead, always have two waters, by the way. So obviously, if we went ahead and we did it with a thinner brush, let's see how I work with this one, and I'll just kind of describe it. So again, loading some paint, putting some water, and I'm just going to see what it does. So first, let's see, the belly obviously is not that big, so this is what we've got. If this wasn't a shape that you wanted, then maybe we just turn it around and start building the shape. So again, I laid that down, I turned it around, and I'm starting to build a shape. Let's change the texture a little bit. So I laid it down, I turned it around, I laid it down, and I turned it around. So again, a nice, beautiful, loose shape. is starting to come across, right? So you see how I just kind of kept it really open and unique, and I'm not like thinking about any particular flower here. I'm just going, you know. And again, if you want to do maybe one of those flowers, like say this long brush is kind of neat to be able to just like utilize the fact that it's going to have a very clear kind of base for you. And I can use that base as the like no color in the center and roll the color around just like that. And so now I've got this beautiful open flower, you know what I mean? And we can literally like add color to the edge to form like an edge here. Look at that. And I like actually end up with dimension, right? Isn't that cool? And then if we did too much, I mean, you can even just take a sea sponge and wet it with clean water and just kind of suck up some of this, or, you know, with your towel, suck up some, just to like, you know, determine where you want a little less color, you know, and then let it dry and actually, you know, just add a little bit more to the mix, like a little bit of layering. So there's so much you can do. All right, let's switch brushes to a smaller brush so that I don't keep you here for too long. How about this one? This is a little size 6 round. So let's get a little phthalo blue so you're not staring at too much red. And let's just, like I said, let's lay the brush down and see what it does. So if I lay the brush down, it's very short. So, but it gave me a really interesting shape, right? So what does that look like? That kind of looks like one of those petaled flowers. So now I'm just gonna see. And again, I'm trying for imperfect. I don't want everything to look the same, because once this dries, you know, you can actually say like just add a little bit of the red from the sea sponge to there. Do you see it? So once this dries, you can go back in and add like another layer, or I can just go ahead and take some other color on here and just use little dots. But let's go ahead and wet this brush and see what else it can do, because to me that's just not enough. So now I'm going to just do kind of like a little J shape and then a backwards J. And now I've seen where this brush is releasing a ton of water, but it actually can give me a nice like tulip shape. Look at that. Cool, huh? See, and then I can add a little bit more color down here. Lovely. And then rinse the brush out, dry it a little bit, and let's just give it a little background color here. So see what we were able to do there? And then if you want to, you know, enhance any of these little areas, you can always go back in and add more. You can take your finger and kind of move it around. You can do a lot. And then I would go back like to do, you know, I would use the thinner brush to go back and add a stem. So what I did is I just gave it a little base and I added a stem, and then get my brush wet. And I'm just going to do some nice loose, some nice pretty loose leaves. Because this is watercolor. So you want that to be flowy and pretty, you know? Beautiful. Here we go. So we did that. What else are we going to do? How about let's look. Okay, so we kind of understand that this one dumps a lot of water and can dump a lot of color. I always encourage you to not only just set it down and drag it, but also roll your brushes when you're doing florals and different things, because you'll get more texture when you're doing it. And I personally, I do study and take a lot of pictures of flowers and nature, which I included in the course so that you can see all the beautiful pictures and ideas for flowers, you know. And I tend to take the pictures as a watercolor artist, you know, like, because I noticed that there's a certain way that we look at flowers. And I find that when you're an artist, you tend to photograph them differently. You know what I mean? Like, easier to paint in ways that are much easier to paint. Okay, so that's a round brush. Okay, so you basically try just that same thing from the point to the belly, and then roll it and just see what you can get. And keep it very free form. Don't try and lock yourself down to anything, because if you're testing out a brush, the whole point of testing out the brush isn't to try and copy a flower. It's to try and see what the brush can do for you. You know, like, not what you can do for your brush, but what your brush can do for you. Okay, so this is that standard synthetic brush. So this is a Da Vinci size 6. If you like Da Vinci, I love Da Vinci, great, but I like Escoda better. I don't know why, I just do. I'm going to take a little Prussian. And by the way, this was phthalo turquoise. This was a mix of Quin Red PV19 and the Anthraquin Red, I think, and also Cherry Red. So, like, they have a lot of beautiful, beautiful reds. This is Prussian blue. Again, to test the brush out, lay the point of the brush down and just see what it does. Oh, look at that. All right. See how different everything is? So this is giving me a whole lot of color. One, because I'm using Prussian and it is very, very pigmented. And two, because this doesn't hold a lot of water. So when I fill the brush with the color, it's not going to give me a ton of water to break it up. I'm going to actually have to do that on my own. So then when I roll it, let's see what it gives us. That's interesting. See what it gave us? So it gave us just a very stark piece. Yep, likes that. And then if I roll it, it gives me something different. So now if this was a petal, and then I kind of roll these petals into each other, and then I give it a front by rolling it across and then close it down and then come back. Now I've got a really interesting looking flower, and I've like layered it with some heaviness because that's what this brush does. It gives you like a lot of color. It doesn't give you a lot of water. And I think that that might be what a lot of beginners use, and that's why they struggle, because this is more of a precision brush. It's not really a watercolor brush. This is actually, if you were going to try and buy this, it probably wouldn't be listed as a watercolor brush because it's way too stiff. It's the synthetic that it doesn't hold a lot of water. And there are other brushes for watercolor that are so much better. However, this one does mimic the cheaper brushes that you get in kits. So that's why I wanted to kind of, show you. So now as I start to dilute it and just keep adding water, let's see what we get. So this is all I'm going to get. So you can see how I get really small little strokes, but I can kind of put them together and end up with a flower, So it really is just depending on your creative energy and what you learn to do with your brush, no matter what brush is in hand, and that's the fun of painting. Like, here I am, right? I'm just kind of seeing what happens, throwing caution to the wind, And I don't really care if I get anything, you know. I'm just kind of want to test out these brushes and see what they do. And that's where you should be with your brushes, you know. So here's what we have so far. All right, let's switch and get another brush before I keep you here for another day and another night. How about this one? This is a crazy brush, right? 1/2 inch Dagger brush, or a ribbon brush, but it's a Dagger. So let me think of what I can do with this. I think I'm going to mix some yellow. Do I have any place on my palette? Yeah, right there. And we're going to just do our first test, which is lay it down. Interesting. Okay, so it's a Dagger brush, right? So to me, I'm like, what if I flip it over and then turn it? Ooh, look at that. I'm starting to get a tulip. So I kind of did. I got myself like a tulip. So I'm going to do it again and flip it over. And look at that. It makes that perfect round little thing. So that's one thing you can do with that. That's pretty cool. Let's get a little more color in here. I'm going to mix it with some of this blue. And just going to swipe in some green just for fun. Just kind of enhance it so you can see it a little bit. And then we're going to lay this down and just kind of let it run out of water. And now we're going to look at this and see how we can make this work. And we just did. Look at that. See how easy that is? Now we're going to lay this down, use its shape to make a lovely petal. Pretty cool, right? And I just twisting this brush crazy. And actually that's a really cool shape. If I do this and then twist it, it kind of gives me this really crazy organic shape. That's really neat that I can build on and grab a little bit more color and lay this down. Lay this down. I need more water on my brush. It's one thing about silver. What is it? These silver brushes. I'm not crazy about these silver brushes just because I just feel like there's better quality brushes out there, and these tend to be really expensive too. I much more prefer the flexibility of the Escoda line of brushes. Even Princeton is nice. It depends on what's in your area, you know. So there's a beautiful loose, you know, use for this. And I'm just kind of demonstrating here that a Dagger brush can do a lot of very cool loose leaves. You know, if you mix up the sizes and you just kind of, I'm laying it down and just kind of using the point and the shape just to kind of shape out different leaves. And I feel like you can even get a nice big, you know, heavy weighted leaf. All right, let's go on to the next one. We've got a shaper brush, and this shaper brush is like no nonsense. I mean, this shaper brush is definitely not for watercolor, but it's a snap brush. Snap brushes, they hold no water at all. But we're gonna mix in some color here and just kind of load it up with something, and we're gonna see what it does. So first, lay it down. What do you get? Pretty much nothing, right? You see what I got? I got nothing. But I can use the angles, all right? So let's lay it down and flick it back. Interesting, okay? And then I'm going to lay it down and just kind of flick it back around. Now I realize that this shaper brush really does circles very, very well. So let's give it another color and add just a little layer. Just bringing in some more colors. So This, of course, is a lot harder to manage, you can see. And this is a great example of the brush, you know, how the brush really does affect the result. But just by kind of playing with the shape, I can actually get something that, you know, not too bad. See that? And I'm laying now I'm taking the shaper, and let me do it with my left hand. I'm laying it down with the point down and then just twisting it. And it's just kind of giving me, you know, a really angular kind of looking leaf, but it's very loose and not bad, you know, not bad. I mean, we managed to get a flower out of that. So it really just depends on you and how you use your brush. Should you get the brushes that I'm using in the course? Yeah, you can if you like them and you love the shape and, you know, you fall in love with them as much as I am. I tend to show you the brushes that I am absolutely the most in love with, you know, like as far as it goes, I just can do so much with this, and it matches my painting style really well. And I just do a lot with it. Like if you look through some of the sketchbook stuff that I play with, I can do a lot with a brush like that, you know, and you would think that this would only be with flats, but no, I do a lot of interesting things with brushes like this because it gives me so much flexibility. There's a belly on the brush, right? It holds a lot of water, so that it holds a lot of color. You know, I'm able to get like everything from little dots for the leaves to strikes for the trees. You know, I can even do straight lines here, and then I can do some detail. So like a brush like this can really, it can paint this entire thing, you know? And so when you are taking my classes, obviously there is so much variety, so much that I do in these sketchbooks. I think that you would really enjoy learning, and I try to keep it really active and interesting so that you're just always learning something new, you know? It's great for beginners, but it's also good for people who just want, you know, a fresh new tutorial to take and something fun to do, you know? So I think I covered a lot of different brushes for you guys and a lot of things that you can do. As far as layering, I mean, basically just take your brush once it's dry, add some more color, maybe a darker color. I would say, you know, start lighter and then work yourself darker. And like in this one here where it's all blended, right? We're just going to kind of go over a petal shape. Look at that. See that? And then I can even, I'm going to try not to touch the part that's wet, because if I touch the part that's wet, it's just going to blend. So I managed to just kind of not touch the part that's wet. And then like here, once this dries again, we could go back in and add, you know, a shadow so that we kind of bring it down. Here again, this is already blended, so just kind of go over it a little bit. But the key to this is just to hit it one layer at a time and then let the layer dry, and then you'll get a lot more interesting looking flowers that way, you know? Like this one kind of looks a little too even for me, so I'm just going to add some depth of color to some of these areas with just, you know, another brush. Or you can go in there with the same brush, you know, and just keep playing and let it dry and until you see what you get. And then, you know, keep this all in your sketchbook so that you can keep playing with flowers, and eventually you're going to get a set of flowers that you're like, "Ooh, I love that. That was great." You know, maybe write some notes on how you got there and keep it so that way you can always go back and do a whole bouquet of flowers that you liked from this, you know? But I always go back in. I rarely will leave it like this. I will always go back in and add texture, maybe with another brush and a couple of more colors, because I just don't really love the flatness of letting the watercolor dry without, you know, without having the depth of color. I like the variations. I think it's really important, and it makes it's a quick way to add so much interest to your watercolor paintings. Like I've seen a lot of people, in the group page we have over on Facebook where you guys show me your work. And a lot of times you're like, I don't know where to go with this. And I'm like, you know what? Just let it dry and go over it. Just let it dry and then go and play with it. Because the way it is of course, it looked great probably before it dried. And then it dried, and watercolor keeps moving as it dries. So especially if it's very wet. So it tends to want to, want to combine, like, just do its thing. So until it's dry, you don't really know what it's exactly going to look like or how much weight the color is going to have. And especially if you're new, you're still got a lot to learn and a lot to notice about the colors you're using, the quality of the paint that you're using, and the outcome that it's going to give you between the paper that you use, the paint that you're using, and the brush, right? So all of those things are going to determine whether what your final outcome is actually going to be like. Okay, so there we go. We did some interesting little effects here. I'm going to add some texture and dimension to this flower because I don't happen to just love it just sitting there like that. It just looks so bare. It looks cartoonesque. And that's it. So there we go. We've got some really neat new flower shapes for you and some ideas on how to get the most from your brushes. I'm playing with some water washes here. And again, layer, just have fun and enjoy yourself. All right, guys, happy painting. I hope you come over and take my course. I'm Jacqueline Jacks, and I'm here to help you with your watercolor. We also have a group page over on Facebook, and that will be linked up in the section below. You guys have a great day. It is so awesome to be back on YouTube. Sorry for the delay. I have been loading videos for the courses and just checking in with my students and making sure that everybody who went into the course before the holidays has everything that they need. And, of course, we're adding more videos to it. So I've been editing those and, just kind of staying focused and staying present. Have a wonderful 2023, you guys. Happy New Year.